There is a creature in the ocean right now that we did not know existed 3 months ago. It lives 4,000 meters down. That's deeper than Mount Everest is tall. It has never been in the light. It will probably die the moment we try to study it. And it is only the beginning. The abyss covers 65% of the planet's floor. That's an area larger than the entire land surface of Earth, but vertical. Stacked 4,000 meters down. Most of it has never been seen by human eyes. Most of it has never been photographed. Most of it remains so entirely unknown that we are still discovering that things we invented don't work down there. Pressure collapses equipment we thought was rated for collapse. Temperature inverts what we thought cold meant. The darkness isn't just the absence of light, it's the absence of any asterisk reference point your eyes can use. When the ROV's light cone cuts through the water, you can see exactly where sight ends. That line between illuminated and nothing, that's not poetic, that's architectural, that's the border of the known. In March 2026, the Schmidt Ocean Institute's ROV was transmitting from the Molloy Deep, north of Iceland. 700-mile-long underwater ridge, temperatures hovering just above freezing, pressure at 550 meters, equivalent to having 550 elephants stacked on a postage stamp. The tethered camera was following the seafloor in real time, the umbilical cable carrying not just power but the actual image feed, grainy, wavering, chromatic aberration bleeding at the edges where the codec struggles to compress something the lens wasn't meant to capture. And then the light caught something that wasn't rock, something that moved against the current, something the manipulator arm had to come forward to resolve, a tube-like structure, semi-translucent, with filaments extending into water so dark the camera's artificial light simply surrendered. When they brought the sample tube closer, finally showing scale, the creature registered at 22 centimeters. A living organism that survives at a depth where the pressure would crush a human body to paste in seconds. An organism that generates its own light through bioluminescence we don't fully understand. An organism that has probably existed for thousands of years, while the entire history of human civilization unfolded above it in perfect, complete darkness relative to this thing's existence. But it gets worse. The same week, a NOAA Okeanos expedition south of the Azores captured something on the Condor seamount that doesn't fit the biological models at all. A colony structure that appears to be chemosynthetic, but also photosynthetic, which shouldn't be possible at 800 meters. Chemosynthesis means the organism powers itself from chemicals in the water, sulfur compounds, methane, hydrogen. That's life feeding on geology. That's life that stopped waiting for the sun 300 million years ago and found another way. But this colony was showing signs of both metabolic pathways simultaneously, which means the organism either evolved a dual energy system or we're watching something fail in real time as it tries to adapt to something we did not know had changed in the deep ocean. The water composition, the chemical balance, something shifted down there and this thing is responding. Scale this outward. The deep ocean adds a new species to the catalog approximately every 15 minutes. That's not speculation, that's the current discovered rate, 15 minutes. Right now, while you're watching this, something is being named that nobody knew had a name. The Mariana Trench alone, the deepest point on Earth at 994 meters, has explored less than 5% of its full volume. The Challenger Deep specifically, the absolute nadir, has been visited by exactly 3 crewed expeditions in human history and unmanned ROVs maybe 6 times total. That's less visitation than some caves in Kentucky. The planet's deepest point has been seen fewer times than most Americans have seen the inside of a hospital emergency room. And we're supposed to believe we know what lives there. Here's what most people get wrong. They think the abyss is stable, dead, a cold, dark archive where nothing changes. That's the image, the void, the screensaver, but the reality is almost the opposite. The deep ocean is in constant flux. Currents carry nutrients from dead whales, from kelp forests thousands of miles away. Underwater volcanoes vent chemicals that build entire ecosystems around the thermal plume. Earthquake-triggered tsunamis send shockwaves through abyssal plains. The seismic activity alone, tremors recorded constantly, suggests a geology in active reorganization. And in that reorganization, life finds edges, niches, pressure boundaries where one metabolic strategy becomes possible and another becomes impossible. That's where evolution accelerates. That's where you get the impossible things. The body strain of leaning forward to resolve a creature that is half emerging from black water the light cannot fully reach. Eyes working to track something that does not care whether you see it. That's not just discomfort. That's the actual experience of the researchers who discover these things. They're not watching a nature documentary. They're operating a robot tethered to a cable, watching a screen that has maybe 40% resolution of what a smartphone showed 5 years ago, trying to identify whether what just moved is alive or just displaced by the current. That friction between intention and clarity, that's real. And when the image finally resolves and you realize what you were looking at, your brain has already decided it shouldn't exist. Your neural model of life was already built. The abyss just broke it. Why does 2026 matter specifically? Because we just crossed a threshold. The technology got good enough that we could deploy ROVs not to specific trenches, the famous ones, the Instagram-worthy ones, but to random points on the abyssal plain. Thousands of them. Grid-based surveys, routine descents that would have been expeditions 10 years ago are now Tuesday. And the species count per expedition has exploded. The discovery rate isn't accelerating because there are more creatures. They were always there. The discovery rate is accelerating because we finally have the equipment to see what was invisible, which means everything we thought we knew about the ocean's carrying capacity, its biodiversity, its potential for supporting life, all of it is probably significantly underestimated. We built our models with incomplete data from a place we could barely reach. Now we can reach it routinely, and the data is telling us the planet is still generative, still creating, still adding to the ledger rather than only losing from it. But here's the tension that won't resolve. Every creature we bring to the surface dies. The pressure change alone is fatal. We can observe, we can collect samples, we can catalog, but we cannot bring living proof back to the world. We cannot show it to you undamaged. All we can do is transmit images from the darkness and ask you to believe that something genuinely alive is moving through that grainy, wavering, barely resolved light. The evidence is on a screen. It is never in your hands. That's the threshold. That's where the feeling lives. The world is bigger than we thought, but we can only barely prove it. The proof arrives corrupted, grain-heavy, fighting against the Kodak. The proof comes in on a cable from 4 kilometers down and arrives with the faint static of distance underneath every frame. So when you see that creature, half-resolved, moving against current you cannot see, existing in pressure that would unmake anything from your world, remember this. That's not a nature documentary moment. That's a transmission from somewhere the planet didn't wait for us to visit before it started building life. The abyss was writing its own rules while we were building cities on the surface. And we're just now starting to read what it wrote. The ocean is not finished. The darkness is not empty. And everything we thought was already known about this planet is, right now, being rewritten 4 kilometers down.